Good morning, everyone. For those who may not know me, I am Jill Bergman. I am the Business and Economic Development Director for the town of Danville. I am joined by our Chief of Planning, David Crompton, and Assistant Town Manager, Ty Williams, and our consultants selected for this project are SWA Group, who will introduce themselves in a moment. I wanted to take a moment to thank you so much for your time and provide a little background about the project. For those who may not be familiar, the Downtown Master Plan was originally prepared in 1986 and was the main visioning document for our downtown that guided the development that you see today. The zoning code, development review process, and policies presently in place were all established from this document. Since inception, there have been many other guiding documents that have been developed that have kind of guided our downtown spaces and transformed our communities, some pocket parks. We have the Arts District. We've seen wayfinding signage, branding, and et cetera. And since the pandemic began, we've all kind of seen a shift in the community. The trends related to online shopping have accelerated. Outdoor dining is definitely more desired. Temporary expanded dining emerged, and temporary delivery and pickup zones were also installed. This provided us an opportunity to take a step back and kind of reimagine our public spaces within the downtown core and identify other types of opportunities that could emerge for the downtown. As a result, last June, the town council kind of directed staff to prioritize the downtown master plan update with a primary focus on, for phase one of this process, to really identify opportunities to enhance and activate our public spaces within the core downtown, and to encourage residents and visitors to simply linger longer. That's kind of the whole goal of what these public enhancements would be. The update also provides an opportunity for us to reconcile the current master plan with other improvements that have been done to date, as well as integrate relevant policies from the other guiding documents in the downtown. And just to note that it's not intended for this part of the process to go forward and modify our zoning. We launched the effort to update the master plan in fall, and this January we began the public outreach phase, which included a community-wide survey that's now active. I'm not sure, many of you have already taken the survey. If you have not, we would encourage you to do so. As well as other things that we have done is we developed a downtown master plan website for the project, which you'll be able to find on danvilletowntalks.org. I'll put that link in the chat soon, so you can link to that. That particular webpage is kind of our portal for this whole process. It has an FAQ section, a description about the project. It has an updated timeline. And we would all encourage you to subscribe to stay informed as part of the project. Anytime we add anything new, if you've subscribed, then you'll receive an update as well. And again, lastly, we would love for you to be able to take that survey, which ends on February 14th, and also encourage you to send it to anyone you think might also want to participate. And again, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to be turning it over now to Andrew Watkins from SWA to take it from here. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jill. We're really excited to be with you here today and hear from you. This is one of two sessions we're having with stakeholders, and this one is focused really on the downtown core. I'm Andrew Watkins. I'm a principal in Laguna Beach, an architect, urban designer, and I'm joined here with Sean O'Malley and Lavisa Kiergan, also from our Laguna office. Next slide. So we are going to give you a project introduction. We're going to do a little polling. We're going to have some breakout rooms, a little recap so everyone can hear about some of the ideas that were discussed in those breakout rooms, and then some next steps for what you can expect to see as the project moves forward. Next. Danville is a really unique town. You guys have done a lot of work on your branding and kind of positioning your downtown, and we are definitely pulling from that. These are some graphics that came from your marketing plan, which is recently done, and up top you can see some of the kind of words from a a survey of kind of how people understand Danville, right? So, talking about restaurants and dining, small town charm were some of the highest hitters. We see Danville as a foodie destination. It's family friendly, arts focused. Next. You guys are also building on a really rich history. We really enjoyed getting to know and understand the progression of how Danville's town has formed. Interesting that it formed originally on Front Street against the creek, then kind of moved to the railroad, and then has really settled now on Harts as kind of the central core. But of course, those other streets are still play an important role, and the streets really that connect between them. And we thought this was a great quote from one of your previous mayors, Millie Greenberg. Danville didn't just happen, it was planned. And so I think what we're here to do now is ask, well, what does tomorrow's town look like? To do that, we are referencing a whole series of documents. Again, I referenced the marketing plan that you guys had recently done, but there are a series of great documents that really form the basis from which our work is stemming. So all the way back to a downtown master plan in '86, and a lot of those things have been achieved, and so that's really great to see too. And in some ways, we feel lucky to be working in a city that really has great bones, that has made improvements over the years, and so we're excited to kind of take that to the next level. We certainly recognize that we are adapting to changing realities, right? The pandemic has been, in some ways, a good little reset and kind of gotten us to be able to think through how we use our public spaces. It's allowed us to quickly test some new ideas, and we want to learn from that, take what's good, take that forward, and be able to evaluate some things and say, no, that didn't really work as well as we had hoped. Maybe it was a good stopgap measure, but we really would like to go back to some of the public realm we had pre-pandemic. Yeah. So we are, recapping a little bit what Jill said, we are creating a new downtown master plan. And what this does is it both synthesizes some previous planning work into a cohesive, easier to use document, but then also looks at some public realm intervention ideas. So what are some of the public space improvements that we can make through this process? And that's what we really want to focus with you on today. Next. So this is our kind of overall map of downtown Danville. What we're going to kind of zoom into the historic downtown area, but I thought I'd take a moment here, and some of you guys may be Zoom experts. Some of you guys may not use Zoom quite as much, but there is an annotate feature here. And so if you click down on view options at the top of your screen, you can pop open an annotate menu. And there's a stamp button, which I recommend. And I'd be really interested to understand where are the businesses that you either operate out of or properties you own. If you can mark on there a heart or a star, I just marked a star or a heart here. It would be great to populate this map with some of your locations. So if y'all want to just take a moment to do that. If any of you are having kind of key technical difficulties, feel free to pipe in. We'll be having some informal discussion. Like to annotate, you can either draw a dot or use an arrow or stamp to mark your location.
I'm sorry, I'm an uneducated Zoomer. How do I access the map?
That's the difficulty of being on the phone, Marcia.
You're muted.
You're muted, yeah.
Thank you. Are you accessing from a mobile device?
Yes.
Yeah, iPhone.
If you swipe to your right, you should be able to see the presentation that we are sharing.
Swipe where all the little dots are?
Yep, try that.
Well, I see you're populating the map.
There you go, Marcia. I put a heart for your area.
Thank you.
Teamwork.
Good choice.
Sorry, I got lost a minute ago. Let's see.
Great. This is looking great, guys.
How do I zoom up so I can see where I'm at on the map?
So this map is just a static slide. And so you may be able to, like, if you're on a mobile device, you may be able to pinch your screen if you somehow you're zoomed in.
Yeah, I tried to zoom in and it closed me out of the whole app. So
I know. Well, yeah, get back into Zoom and join us in here. And this is really just a fun exercise. So, if you guys don't get this, we'll close out of this in just a minute. But just, wanted to have a little icebreaker here and understand where you all may be.
Yeah, Drew, I'm on an iPad, which is similar to an iPhone. So if you up in your upper right, it says more, and there's 3 little dots. And if you hit those 3, the word more, and then below raised hand, there's like a heart and thumbs up and things like that. I think that might work.
Great. And some people have noticed in the chat, if you're having trouble adding something, just ask us to add it, and Jill is adding in some markers for people.
Okay, I'll just find it as well. Pizza right next to Spenga. There you go, Drew.
Okay, great, guys. This is great. Appreciate you guys going through the Zoom hoops here. I'm just gonna save this for the fun of documenting our progress here. Okay, let's keep going. We're gonna zoom in here to historic downtown. And so we are focused especially on today's call at this historic core. I did notice there were some of you from outside, and so feel free to, of course, comment on your area. We are having a call tomorrow with largely businesses that are outside of kind of this historic core. But most of you, I believe, are located within the boundary that you see here. And this is basically a boundary from Railroad to Front Street. Hart is right down the middle, running generally north, west to southeast. And of course, the main intersection of Diablo, and then kind of secondary intersections of Prospect and Church in here. Next. So where are we in the process? We are essentially in the community outreach process. We have had an initial town council study session and have heard some input from them. We have been doing some existing documentation, and we are leading up to creating a series of strategies, placemaking strategies that we will be folding into our draft document. We'll have a series of touch points with town council and some of the commissions, and we'll be producing a final document that we'll be providing for adoption. So there will be opportunities, and Jill had mentioned this website, the Town Talks. There's a little QR code there. Feel free to grab that, and we'll be putting up our progress on that site so that you can all follow along with our work.
All right. Thanks, Drew. So so with that background and overview, we thought we would start here by walking through just a high level of the downtown fabric as we have understood it when we visited the town, and some of the main components that we're understanding and working with when we're discussing the public space of Danville and what that is and what it could be. So, of course, starting with your main vehicular through streets, all very important for the flow of cars through town. Diablo Road, Harts Avenue through the center, and Railroad Avenue. It's some images here on the right. And it's also these main roads where you have currently your main gateway monumentation kind of point that tells you you're entering in to the historic downtown. So on the north side here, there's the signage wall with some oak trees flanking. Of course, your incredibly beautiful and important grand oak tree out here along Diablo. And then on the south side, an overhead banner that's currently a little less permanent in its nature. And then from there, we thought it was really interesting to look not only at the road network of the town, but also some of the greenways that you have, starting here with the Iron Horse Trail, which seems to be really popular and well-used greenway. In some ways, maybe not as closely linked to the fabric of downtown as it maybe has potential to be. We're showing some images here along the trail and crossing points over vehicular roads and some informal shortcuts that you have through parking areas and other retail areas to take you into downtown. And we feel that there's maybe potential here to strengthen those connections. And then on the other side, along Front Street, like Drew mentioned, you have the creek. And this is really also a pretty unique asset for the town. It's really not every place that has their own creek running through it. The conditions along the creek vary somewhat. The image that you see on the top right here is a county maintenance path with a relatively new bridge going across it over here. And then along Front Street, you have almost like a green wall of the riparian trees and the vegetation along the creek. And so the condition along the creek bank itself is quite varied, steep in some sections, more flat in others. But we see a lot of potential here to bring the creek closer to the towns or to the town in different ways and maybe activate this edge. Moving on to another important part of the town structure, the Arts District and the Town Green, which is a really nice and generous shared green space that you have with obviously a concentration of cultural amenities, the library, the community center, and the theater. And we're really inspired by also the temporary arts programs that have happened here and around town. So that's something that, yeah, it's definitely a cultural anchor. There's also a series of smaller plazas along the streets. It seemed to us when we were walking through town that maybe the Plaza by Starbucks is the most popular in terms of actual people sitting, using it, lingering. And then zigzagging through, how do people move through town? And so we're interested here in the east-west pedestrian connection. As obviously, Harts Avenue is also an important pedestrian connection, and so is Front Street. But are there ways that we can encourage people to meander through and, yeah, like Drew said, linger longer? What would that mean? And what is the experience as you move through the streets of Danville today? Pretty varied, just a series of images here on the right. And where within this pedestrian network might we have the best opportunities to expand on public space or improve on public space amenities and offerings? And so what we started to map out here are some of the street sections where we see a higher concentration of active interfaces with businesses or other stopping points, and where you already have perhaps a higher concentration of pedestrian activity today. So along parts of Harts Avenue, along East Prospect, Church Street, of course. And then as an overlay on that, through the pandemic, the fabric of the town has changed quite a bit with these temporary interventions that have happened outdoor, as all of us have moved outside more and more to socialize and to dine. And so there's been a series of different parklets happening. I'm not sure if everyone still remains in the locations that they're mapped here, but there's been quite a few different iterations of that, as well as temporary closure of Church Street and build out of outdoor dining and other activities here. So that is just an overview of the structure of the town. And we want to dive a little bit deeper now to start thinking about how can we enhance experiences of the public space? What might be a good idea to do for Danville, and what is more or less important? So Drew, do you want to give us a rundown of Zoom polling? and you're muted.
We're going to do a little Zoom poll with you all. For those of you on desktop computer, this poll will pop up as another window, and so you'll still be able to see the presentation and the poll at the same time. And then, yeah, go to the next slide, Lavisa. If you are on a mobile device, the poll should pop up fully on your mobile device, as you can see on the left. If you want to look at the presentation, there will be probably some toggling back and forth. You can close that poll. If you select any kind of answers, it will save them, but you can close it, and then you'll come back to the presentation screen, as you can see in the middle. To get back to the poll, you hit More down on the lower right, and can select the polls and quizzes again, and that'll pop that poll back up. And we have 4 questions that we'll be asking, but we will have a series of slides, kind of program slides, and be asking you to kind of evaluate some things between them. And so with that, Lavisa is going to take you through some kind of program imagery, and I'm going to start the poll at the same time. Feel free, we'll kind of get through this whole section, and then you can submit the poll at the end.
That sounds good. So really the high-level question here is, how can we improve Danville's public space? What are some ways that we can apply change or interventions that would be good for the town, and how do you feel about that? So kind of blue sky exercise. So we're going to do this category by category. So the first thought that we have here is, how do you feel about a bigger designated pedestrian plaza space in Danville? Would that be a good thing, not significant, or not a good thing? So you're able to answer in the poll with respect to plaza space.
Are they able to select multiple?
I'm not seeing a poll. I just see the pictures.
Are you on a computer or a mobile phone?
I'm on a desktop.
It should be popping up.
Check your pop-ups. Mine did come up.
Okay.
Down below where it says polls. Sir.
Yeah, and if you guys are having trouble responding to these, we can certainly jot some notes down, and we can take them. We don't. This is not a scientific survey. We'll continue to discuss this in the breakout rooms. This is just to get us thinking about these different spaces. So if you're able to participate, great. If not, jot some notes down, and we'll take your input in another way.
Okay. So with that, should we try to go to the next topic?
I really feel like a Luddite here. Where's the poll? Under reactions?
Should be to the right of participants if it's showing up for you.
I see chat.
Yeah, so it might not be showing up.
This is Kiva. I can't do the poll either.
Interesting. I'm not sure why. I mean, unless the Zoom is not updated.
It's Darren. I had to turn off my annotate feature to kind of have the poll pop up. Maybe.
There you go.
Turn off your what?
You go up to the top where it says view options. You turn off annotate.
Oh,
that one is selected.
Okay, let me do that.
Yeah, again, I'm on my iPad, and if I hit more in the upper right, or if on your phone in the lower right, the top line says polls, quizzes, and you just touch that, and you pull up the poll.
So the first question, I'll just describe it, talks about downtown Danville needs, and it has A as pedestrian plazas, B, more outdoor dining, C, enhanced ambiance, D, improve pedestrian connections, E, gateways, more wayfinding, and F, to activate creeks. And then if you actually continue to scroll down, because that's one thing that's also tricky. It's not just the first question, there's multiple questions. So if everyone will scroll down as well and answer the rest, that would be great.
And let's walk through some additional slides here. So like Jill was saying, the second thought or opportunity is more outdoor dining throughout town, along the streets or in designated expanded spaces. Would that be a good thing? So that's the second question. The third is, would it be good to try to create an enhanced ambiance, maybe using more lighting or lighting in a different way to create that nighttime feel? The fourth question, would it be good to strengthen the pedestrian connections or crossings through town? And that could be improving crosswalks themselves, maybe do more landscaped bulb outs or better controlled crossings. And it could be perhaps also expanded pedestrian connections or shortcuts through town. Fifth question, do we need new, different, better gateways or perhaps more directional signage or wayfinding in town so that you know what destinations are a stone's throw perhaps from where you're walking? Sixth question has to do with the creek, and would this be a good thing for town to think about how to activate the creek further? Could be something like pedestrian walkways, enhanced walkways or trails along the creek, or even encouraging more active businesses facing the creek.
And just to clarify, it's not the questions, it's the answer, the options you can pick.
Right.
Yeah, on the. Which again, we'll also be talking more in the breakout if you're unable to do the poll, but just keep that in mind.
Right. More street furnishings is another thought or idea. It could be expanded furnishings families through town, maybe just more benches, waste receptacles, or so on. Or it could be the occasional, perhaps sculptural furniture piece too, that could be a landmark or a little icon.
I'm noticing that everyone did question 1, but it looks like question 2, 3, and 4 has limited response. Did we want them to be going through all of the poll questions at this time?
Yeah, I mean, as we get through these prompts, it'd be great if you can kind of scroll down and try to hit the different things. So if you didn't notice some of those questions at the bottom, feel free to go back into the poll and continue to fill those out.
Right, and so while I'm scrolling here on the share screen, you can scroll in the poll window also to see more questions. So number 8 there is in regards to tree canopy and whether the town needs more of it. Another idea is family programming. Would it be good to have more specific activities for children? It could be sculptural play or could be games and so on. More downtown art. We know there's been quite a few pretty popular programs with the Hearts of Danville and so on, but obviously I think got a little echo. Public art can take many forms, can be permanent, can be temporary, can be bold and loud and happy, or more subtle and subdued, just unique furnishings. The Parklet program that you have seen over the last couple of years here, is that something that should be made a permanent fixture of the town and maybe organized a little differently? Maybe there's even a framework for how those parklets can be built and what they do and what they look like that could be a little more organized, but as an element, are they good for the town? And then the last thought and idea we had here was in regards to either underutilized or temporarily vacant spaces, whether there's gaps between buildings or empty storefronts from time to time. Would it be a good thing to find temporary uses for those, or even have your arts programs expand to those spaces? So a range of ideas, and there might be additional ideas that we have not thought of or put as part of this range that you may want to mention to us as we go into the breakout rooms and discuss further. But we just want to get everyone's brains going a little bit to think about what would be possible for Danville and what might be good and what might be a priority over something else.
So Drew, I'm getting a couple responses about where the poll is again. Is it possible to relaunch it without editing the questions?
If I relaunch it, it will clear the responses that have already been provided.
Submitted, so.
Hey, Drew, maybe during our breakout rooms, we can run through the poll with all the participants in that room, and I can mark down the responses.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. I think, we'll have, what I'll also be able to do is share the poll results in a moment here. And so we can use that to kind of discuss. You guys can also kind of notice what you agree and disagree about, and that can be something that we discuss in the breakout room as well. I am showing that it looks like 13 of you have kind of worked through the first question, though 7 or 8 down on questions 2 through 4. So I may just give another moment. And Livia, so maybe go up to the top and just kind of scroll through those the different programs one more time, just so people can see also the imagery.
So we'll do a little recap here. So the first one was about pedestrian plaza space and a range of ideas of how that can look or be experienced. More outdoor dining, would that be a good thing? That's the second question or topic. Enhanced ambience using lighting differently than what it's being used today in the town. Improved pedestrian connections, crosswalks or paseo shortcuts. Gateways or wayfinding and signage. Activation of the creek, different ideas for that. More street furnishings throughout the town. Additional tree canopy beyond what you have today. Family programming. More downtown art, or perhaps different downtown art. Expansion of the Parklet program. And then using temporarily vacant or underutilized spaces for other temporary programming.
So I'm not seeing a lot of people jumping on those editing. I think we're having a little bit of issues with the polls. So maybe we move on, and towards the end, we can kind of regroup as part of follow-up at the end.
Sounds good. I will end the poll now, and we can just kind of go through those of you who are able to fill it out, and that will allow us to kind of discuss some of these responses in our breakout rooms. So I'm going to end the poll here and share results. And if for some reason you aren't seeing this screen, another pop-up should have come up. But I'll also kind of just review it real quick with everyone. And so in the question 1, which was asking about the pedestrian plaza space, outdoor dining, enhanced ambiance, pedestrian connections, gateways and wayfinding, and activation of the creek, we had some clear interest in more outdoor dining and enhanced ambiance. So that's interesting to see. Of those 6 different initial categories, the highest ranking again were well, actually, enhanced ambiance was one, and then more pedestrian plaza space was actually also a top priority, with outdoor dining ranking a little lower on that one. Getting down to the second set of 6, the top responses were more street furnishings was across the board. Everyone who filled out that one agreed that more street furnishings would be good. And that was followed a little bit by activating underutilized or vacant spaces within downtown. Maybe more fun for families just behind that. When we get to kind of the top priority out of that set, more fun for families was actually the top ranking one there, followed by activation of underutilized and vacant spaces and then street furnishings. So that's a small take of the room, and we look forward to discussing these more with you in our breakout rooms.
Drew, was there a second poll slide? Because that first poll slide just had like the first 6 or so, 5 or 6 items.
You may have also been able to scroll down there to see further results.
Okay.
So we're going to enter our breakout rooms here. We've generally organized these by retail, restaurants, personal service, office, and property owner or management companies. And I did have a few people that I was not able to assign to a room. I'm not sure that I had you on the initial list that the town provided, and so I would like to just ask. I think there's 4 people. James Baldacci. Great. Joey Passanisi.
Yes, I'm here. And yeah.
Are you business property owner?
Business owner, Spanga Danville.
Okay.
So it's a personal service.
Personal service. Great.
Yes.
Shayna Ronan.
Yes, I'm here, performing arts.
You can put that under personal service as well if that works, or
great. Yeah. All right, we're a little low on that one, so that's great. Will Ballo.
Yes. Hi. I commercial real estate, work with Jamie Liu and James Baldacci.
Okay. Okay, great. That's everyone. Thank you. So I'm going to open up rooms, and you should get a pop-up to enter into a room, and there will be either one of us from SWA or somebody from the town who will join you in there. And we have kind of 3 questions that we're going to discuss, and we'll be able to share these and put them up on the screen for you all as well. But the first is, should any of the temporary changes implemented during COVID be made permanent downtown? Why not? Are there key public space challenges that you'd like this master plan to address? And are there key public space opportunities that you'd like us to seize upon? Either things that ideas you have or things you've seen done in other cities. So with that, I will open up the rooms, and we're gonna try to keep this to about 10 minutes. No, we're gonna keep this to about 20-25 minutes. We do have some time. We started at 10:30, and then we will come back and share kind of what we discussed in each room. If, as you guys enter into your room, if you can discuss who might be the reporter, you can always default to one of us or our city staff, but if someone's willing to share, that would be great. And we'll just have kind of 1 or 2 minutes per group share as we come back together. Okay, opening the rooms, and please click to go in. Okay, great to see everyone coming back in.
Anyway, the Better Community Science talks about current events.
Thank you, Marcia. Yes. So sorry you got a little cut off there, but I think we're all back together jointly now.
So I'd like to just take a minute or 2 for each group to be able to share some of the kind of highlights of their discussion. I'm happy to start us off, and and again, try to keep it to about a minute or 2 so we can generally stay within our time frame here. So I was in the kind of personal services group. I was with Joey, Wendy, and Shayna. They kind of had some mixing of actual use in relation to the COVID or pandemic measures. Not everyone was using outside space, but the bar studio was, and they really enjoyed using outdoor space. But maybe where it was not ideal. It was in a tent in the parking lot, and they didn't enjoy having parking available. But I think everyone liked the idea of more opportunities for businesses to use outside areas. And one area in particular that was brought forward was the library green. And currently there's a permit fee that makes it hard maybe for some businesses to utilize that on an hourly basis. So if there was a bar class out there for an hour, the fee is maybe a little prohibitive. And so if there was a program that allowed businesses to use some of those outdoor spaces in town, They thought that would both be great visibility, just kind of bring people outdoors and create some kind of a lively environment. Let's see. More ways to let people know kind of where businesses are. So signage, especially for businesses that are tucked back behind, so that are off of Harts or down one of the little paseos. So if there was signage that let people know what businesses are back there, they thought that would be really useful. As well as just access to letting people know what is going on in town, and that may or may not be physically based. But they thought that there was a lot of interest in community gathering, and so that was either kind of branding, weekly or monthly gatherings, or kind of soft events that brought people downtown, like a family night kind of thing. Every first Wednesday is a family night kind of thing. Generally very in favor of the temporary dining opportunities becoming permanent. They thought that was a really great way that the pandemic taught us how to use our outdoor spaces, and so that was good to hear. Maybe a little bit more signage where parking is, and the last comment we snuck in there was having a sidewalk along the creek, maybe making Front Street one way.
Great. Okay, I'll go next, Drew, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so our group was composed of Darren, Dave, Randy, and Lindsay. And I'll just speak collectively, I think, about some of the comments. It was interesting how the pandemic has re-energized downtown in some ways. Of course, drawing attention to the importance of a public space. However, there's concern raised about some safety issues along Harts Avenue in particular, and the need for more traffic mitigation. And also another broader question, what is the source of lifeblood for Danville in the future? Because we have lost some restaurants and we're seeing a little bit more empty storefronts. So what will ultimately draw people here? And there was an interesting idea about the not only the Iron Horse Trail being important, but of course the creek. And the creek and the trail acting together is kind of a ladder, two sides of a ladder, with the roads running across the smaller streets, connecting that ladder together, and the opportunity that creek represents, and also the idea about programming being very important. Looking at other neighboring towns, what they do for the holidays with skating rinks and so forth. So how can Danville really be more proactive in how we address the holidays, whether it's a skating rink or even a parade, a light parade, or something with trucks that brings people through. And I think one of the other challenges that was mentioned was really that we need to speed things up a bit in terms of how we address our dining situation. We have great sidewalks that are 13 feet wide, for example, but how can we move faster in our idea of the parklets and so forth. So I think, and of course, lighting being an important part of the dining experience, and moving beyond just dining, but the collective whole of the experience, the walking and the trails and so forth, working together. And then, another challenge, of course, is how best for the town to move collectively to address all people's concerns at large. I know that's difficult. We try and impose the best kind of democratic process we can through polling and so forth. But there'll always be naysayers. But I think we do need to move, and we need to move quickly. So that's what we have.
Great, thanks, John. Lavisa, do you want to?
Sure, I'll jump in here after having spoken to representatives from the retailer sector. So thanks for sharing your thoughts. I took a flurry of notes, but I'll try to summarize briefly because I know we're a little tight on time. There was a consensus here as well that the outdoor dining opportunities that have been made possible through COVID have largely been really good for the town, in that it feels like they're drawing both visitors from beyond the town and giving people a reason and an opportunity to do exactly that, linger longer and make that experience pleasant. That said, it would be desirable for the execution of these parklets to be perhaps to a higher standard. They're very different. Some of them are built a little sturdier or maybe nicer than others, and to have some consistency in that and maybe a higher tier of aesthetics would help. And then there were thoughts related to safety for both the users of the parklets and pedestrians, both when it comes to the interface with vehicles, especially along Hearts where people tend to drive very fast. If there are ways to slow down traffic there and make it safer for pedestrians, that would be good. And also, if the parklets become permanent, to look at how it works in moving server staff or moving other equipment across the sidewalk that pedestrians are using. And so to minimize the conflict there with literally people bumping into each other or things that you might potentially trip on and so forth. Another thought or final thought with the parklets was to also perhaps have parklets that are open. So not just parklets that are tied to a specific restaurant, but ones where you can come and do takeout from anywhere or just have a seat as you're strolling through town. That would be beneficial in this mix. We also talked about temporary closures and temporary programming in different parts of town and how that may be good. We know that the farmers market is really popular. It's happening on the weekend. It's located a little bit outside of the core of town. Would there be opportunities to have other maybe weeknight events where you close off a portion of a street and do some other type of pop-up market or even pop-up dining, or have an opportunity for different restaurants to serve people seated in a concentrated area? So it's not just outdoor dining restaurant per restaurant, but something that could be more of a community event. That was one thought. As far as priorities and general opportunities for the town, lighting was seen as a very high priority for improvement. There was a consensus that it feels dark after hours downtown, and that's deterring people from feeling safe walking around, but also that there's a lot of opportunity with enhanced ambiance to create a better experience and bring people in. Let's see. Yeah, and finally, the other high-level note here is we talked about signage also, and that perhaps signage in the town today is a little inconsistent and maybe not enough of it to really let people know where they could be going, both from, say, the Iron Horse Trail to let people know what's possible to experience just a stone's throw from there, to perhaps business-specific signage and just more signage in general to clarify what's where, and also to gear that not just to people driving, but to pedestrians. Like, what are some ways that we can increase visual interest in various ways that help people slow down and see literally what's in front of them and not just zoom through.
Awesome, thanks, Lovisa. David, do you want to share what your group talked about?
Sure, I'd love to. So I was with the group of downtown business office users. So we had Gary Datley, Brittany Wiley, and Terry Doyle with the Doyle office, and Blair and Stephen with Barry and Wynn Architects. So a lot of similar comments as we have heard from the other groups. I think universally, the idea of extending the outdoor dining is seen as a good thing. People kind of like the vibe it's created, with the kind of caveats that, what we saw go up very quickly is, with the canvas and some of the designs out there and the way they've been maintained aren't really a long-term vision, but, some, more permanent structures that are aesthetic and done well and with some consistency would be great. There's kind of questions and comments about, well, where would those go and how can we do that equitably? Does it make sense maybe to widen some sidewalks in some places? And, but again, how and where? And, some restaurants have very nice spaces either on or off site, maybe on their site beside their building, and others really don't have the space to do it. So, some are going to be happy and maybe some aren't going to really have the opportunity to do it. So how do we work through that? There was discussion about, again, the lighting and the idea of more lighting, the alleyways, the streets, side roads, the trail connections throughout downtown with a variety of lighting, not just the street lighting, but overhead lighting and a variety of different types of overhead or side lighting that would be kind of interesting and varied downtown. Everybody liked the idea of more public spaces downtown. So not just the private restaurant dining, but areas where the public can gather, including, again, more of the connections. We have some alleyways between parking lots and Hearts, but we should be looking for opportunities to create more of those. Some of the ones we have, it was mentioned, the one by Valley Medlin, could be enhanced. It's kind of there. It's kind of dark and kind of dirty. It could be lighted, and it could be enhanced with landscaping and other treatments. The idea of public gathering areas for the offices that are, for use by the public for, say, eating their lunch. Instead of, if somebody wants to come out of their office and buy a sandwich or bring their lunch and have a place to sit at a bench and a picnic table, let's find some places to make those available. Talk about maybe creating a public, public space, such as closing one of the side streets. One of the ones that was thrown out was the west side of Church Street. That maybe that would make a great public plaza area with overhead lighting and nice landscaping and kind of another pedestrian connection over to Railroad Avenue. And I think that kind of summarizes what we have.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Jill, do you want to share what your group talked about?
I have Judy who's going to jump in on that, and I can add anything.
Sure. Thanks a lot. So we had the property owners, which was great. Again, consensus, everybody loves the outdoor dining, particularly on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, finds it as a meeting place, and you see your neighbors and friends, which everyone loves. Mention from the museum standpoint that people love walking back and forth near the museum, and they're getting more visibility because of that, and really, really like that. There seemed to be a consensus, as all of you have heard in your groups, about liking the street fairs, liking the piazza thought, and how to sort of make that, is a family-friendly way to do it, and is that separate from kind of an adult, more adult gathering place. More features, I really like this one, more features to celebrate the historic nature of Danville. We love dedicated park benches and historic things that provide opportunities for photo ops. Lighting came up again, as particularly along Hearts Avenue. People love the idea of an enhanced ambiance at night and feel that that's going to make people feel safer to come downtown. With regard to signage, everybody kind of felt like we were in good shape with signs. Downtown is compact enough, and people can always find things with the signage that's already down there. And then
Jack did? Oh, I don't know. I thought there was.
Hold on.
Okay.
Mute some people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then the last thing, not necessarily needed to have, more charging stations, Wi-Fi. That's not really why people come to Danville. They go to bigger cities, and we seem to be well equipped on that front. So that was our group.
One thing I wanted to add was the interest in the public art. They really loved the temporary art displays that rotated around the properties, because it really provided a lot of the property owners an ability to have people come to their property and be attracted, again, back to the whole selfie stations, whether it's public art or it's trying to create some type of selfie station that highlights the historic part. Like if you're taking a picture with the Danville Hotel or you're, Mount Diablo or the museum, something like that. So that was a more of the engaging part with the art and the outreach like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. This is really great feedback. I think we heard a lot of great thoughts, and we're excited to kind of take these, synthesize them, and come back to you in the town with a series of strategies that incorporates much of what we're hearing. Lavisa, do you mind sharing your screen again and putting up, I think it's just our kind of next step slide? So just a reminder, we saw a similar slide to this earlier. We are kind of currently in community outreach. we'll be developing a draft downtown master plan with those strategies, and then kind of taking feedback from town council and commissions along the way, and adopting that into a final downtown master plan. Again, grab that website QR code with your camera or jot it down, register as Jill said, and you'll get updates on any of the progress documents that we're releasing on the site. Jill also just put it in the chat.
And also, when Drew was mentioning the next steps, some of the findings that will be coming back from SWA will be going through to our different commission and councils for input, since they were part of the initial process. And that will include, what we're getting here out of the 2 stakeholder meetings that we're having. So another reason why we would really like you to be able to register, so that we don't miss you when it comes to notifying you about those meetings, so that if you did want to provide any public comment or be present and hear about the results, that would be the opportunity to do so.
Great, thanks, Jill.
Yeah.
Thank you all for all your input. Really enjoyed hearing from you all.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming and your valuable time.
That was fun. Good to meet you all.
All right.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.